Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
Whenever 64-year-old Tom Merriman's name appeared in California newspapers, it was always because of butterflies. Tom was a butterfly expert who loved them. He talked to the press about how the latest weather phenomena was going to affect them. He promoted his nonprofit and tourism attraction he co-founded, the Butterfly Farms in Encinitas, California. It was a butterfly garden and aviary where the public could learn all they had ever hoped to about butterflies and more. Butterflies are whimsical, delicate, and beautiful. But there was a darker side to Tom Merriman. In fact, Deputy District Attorney Jorge Del Portillo warned jurors, "You're not going to like him. You're not going to like his conduct." He told them, there was some offensive, disturbing conduct on behalf of Mr. Merriman, which is the exact motive for this case. On January 1st, 2021, Tom Merriman's body was found buried under trash in his driveway. Next to the pile was a wheelbarrow. His death occurred after Tom had suffered some medical issues days earlier. He had fallen down and broken his ribs, spending several days in the hospital, and then getting therapy until he was discharged late morning on New Year's Eve. When authorities discovered his body, he still wore his medical bracelet and the clothes he had been wearing when he left the nursing care facility. The defense argued that Tom died from an overdose. That's what the autopsy indicated. That's what Tom's past history indicated, too. His body was weary with signs of substance abuse. He was not in good health. But the prosecution argued that Tom had been murdered, and they gave an explicit motive to the jury. They said the killer had ambushed him, drugged him, suffocated him, and strangled him. He never saw it coming. He never had a chance, Prosecutor Del Portillo said during the December 2022 trial in a San Diego County courtroom.
What sets this case apart from others is the amount of time dedicated to planning Tom's death, captured in real time by the defendant's smartphone. Her thoughts, her feelings, her deliberations, all captured by her phone.
This is Jillian, and in partnership with Law and Crime, you're listening to Court Junkie, episode 235, part 1. Interior decorator Jade Janks was cleaning her stepfather, Tom Merriman's apartment while he was in the hospital after his fall in December 2020. Tom had a history of bad spills, and Jade had a history of taking care of him and looking after him. Tom had been married to Jade's mother when Jade was a teenager, although her mother and Tom had since split up. But now in her late 30s, Jade was close to Tom, although their relationship was rather unorthodox. Tom was needy and dependent on her. But according to Jade, they both loved each other as fathers and daughters do, even if their relationship had no official blood ties. The two of them ate dinner together sometimes. Tom walked Jade's dog, and when Tom needed help, he called Jade. Through chance, they were next-door neighbors. Jade had moved into a place 50 yards from Tom, which made it convenient on that December day in 2020, when Jade went over to clean his house while he was in the hospital, recovering from his broken ribs. Jade wiped down his office, and that's when she accidentally bumped into his computer mouse. The screensaver jolted to life. What she saw shocked her. There, on the computer screen, was a photo of breasts. What's more, Jade saw a beauty mark that looked too familiar. She had the same mark on her own chest. She instantly made the connection. "Those are my breasts," Jade later said in court. I just couldn't believe it. I was in complete shock. There was no way. There's no way. She said she felt betrayed by her father figure. It wasn't hard to then hack into Tom's computer. She did it on the first try, remembering one of his commonly used passwords. Things got worse. She discovered that Tom had hundreds of explicit photos of her that she had taken when she was younger, both when she was underage and in her 20s, including shower pictures with her then boyfriend. "He's got 2 desktop monitors, and so when I turned it on and it shook, like when I logged in, there was a rolling screen, like a slideshow of pictures of me that I had taken over the years. Some of them I hadn't even recognized," Jade later said in court. He didn't just have the photos. He had cropped them and put them in folders by body part. Of course, she had never shared these naked photos with her stepfather. "He's like my dad," Jade said. She couldn't believe Tom was viewing these explicit photos and collecting them like inappropriate baseball cards. After all, Jade said, Tom called her his daughter. Their family bond was mutual, she had always thought. She hypothesized how he stole them. He could have accessed her laptop. But years ago, she also lost a memory card to her camera, and then the actual camera itself. "I chalked it up to being lost," she said. Now, she wasn't so sure she had lost the device. She must have been robbed. It was the most violating, just awful, gut-wrenching feeling ever. I felt sick. I couldn't even touch my own skin. I don't know if there were words. Not even in a movie had I seen something so sick, she said. Tom was dead within days of Jade discovering those photographs on his computer. And eventually, Jade was arrested and charged with first-degree murder.
From the moment she discovered the photos, she began planning. Never reaching out to friends, never reaching out to family, never reaching out to Tom's landlord or even to Tom to confront him. Those were options she considered for 8 days and 8 nights, and she chose against it, and she chose murder.
But all along, Jade insisted she was innocent. She didn't kill her stepfather, somebody she truly loved, she said. Why would someone confess to murder? Prosecutor Jorge Del Portillo asked a jury during opening statements. Sometimes it's out of guilt, say to a priest. Sometimes it's because you're caught, to a detective. But sometimes you confess to people from whom you're seeking help to cover up the murder or commit the murder. In other words, out of self-preservation. And that's the evidence that you will see in this case. When you decide to reach out to people to cover up murder, you gotta make sure you trust them, that they're discreet, that they won't go to the police, or that they have no idea they're helping out in a murder. According to the prosecution, Jade had asked multiple people for help, including a, quote, fixer named Alan Roach. Prosecutor Del Portillo said Jade hadn't met Alan in person. A former friend had told her that if you needed assistance with something and you wanted discretion, Alan was the person to call. His background was in private security. Jade didn't have Alan's phone number, so she Facebook messaged him, receipts that authorities were able to find later, and asked to speak with him on the phone. I hate texting, Jade wrote. The situation is one I'm not sure how to handle. It's quite personal. Prosecutor Del Portillo said that on Christmas Eve, Jade and Alan met in person And she told him all about the photos she found on Tom's computer. She told him she was scared to shower in her apartment, especially because Tom lived so close to her. She didn't know what would happen when he was released from his medical treatment. She asked Alan to be her bodyguard, and she hired him to stand watch so she could have peace of mind. I've been sleeping with a tarp on the floor and have a knife and iron rod by the bed, just in case it's a worst-case scenario, Jade texted Alan on Christmas Day. She figured the noise from the tarp would alert her if someone was walking up. Investigators later found the knife on the nightstand and the tarp when they searched Jade's house with a search warrant. She says she's having this visceral reaction. She's even vomited a few times outside, just going in there and thinking about these photographs, Prosecutor Del Portillo said. She says to Mr. Roach, "This isn't something I can take care of on my own. I'm really trying to hold it together. I'm losing it. It's spinning. The next day, I'm waiting for the hospital to call me back, but so far it seems like he's getting his strength back. I think the time to come up with a plan is fast approaching." Worried about her stepfather coming home from the medical center, Jade had a solution, she texted Alan. She texted him with plans to meet in person before she went to pick up Tom from the hospital. At 11:19 a.m. on New Year's Eve day, Tom was discharged. A nurse who testified at trial said he was alert and had normal vital signs when he left the facility. He was breathing without any trouble. He had only taken Tylenol and wore a lidocaine patch, but he didn't have any of the toxic levels of drugs like Ambien, oxycodone, and trazodone that were found in his system at the time of his death. Jade picked Tom up in her 4Runner from the nursing care facility. Prosecutor Del Portillo read the text she sent Alan a short time later. "I just dosed the hell out of him. I'm stopping for whiskey and stopping at Dixie Line to stall," she wrote. Investigators later found the Benvo receipt for whiskey and small vodka bottles and chocolates in her car. Then, in the Dixie Line hardware store, Jade bought towels, zip ties, spray paint, cord, and gloves. The red paracord was going to be used as a murder weapon, according to the prosecution. She asked Alan to come over and help her after she arrived home with Tom. What happened was Tom had fallen out of his car and hurt himself, Prosecutor Del Portillo told the jury. He was so heavily medicated, and the drugs that she dosed him hit him so hard that he couldn't even make it out of the car, and he fell and hurt himself. And she couldn't pick him up. He was too heavy. But Alan never showed. He wouldn't show up at trial either. The jury wouldn't get to hear testimony from Alan, which the defense tried to spin to its advantage. Alan Roach, he was interviewed by the police. He didn't say that he had any part of any type of murder plot, Jade's attorney told the jury. He didn't say at any time that Ms. Janks told him to kill anybody or be part of any type of that. None of that. So he's not going to come in here and tell you that at all. In fact, he's not even going to be here. The reason why, according to the media outlet The Coast News, was because authorities were unable to contact him to testify. But even without Alan testifying, the prosecution still had the text messages. When Alan never showed up, Jade also reached out to a friend named Sarah Jacobs. According to prosecutors, Sarah and her boyfriend, Justin, had no idea what Jade was plotting. By this point, Tom was still lying in the driveway. Jade couldn't get him inside or back into the 4Runner. She was stuck, so she called Sarah and her boyfriend to help her. When they got there, Justin helped Tom get into the 4Runner and asked for pillows to make him more comfortable. As Justin and Sarah left, Jade promised them she was taking Tom back to the hospital. But prosecutors said she never took Tom to the hospital or called 911. Instead, Jade drove for hours, still texting with Alan. She drove around with Tom in a car for a couple hours because her real purpose was to kill him and stage it to look like an overdose. But she didn't want to be the one that did it, Prosecutor Del Portillo said. He said Jade kept texting Alan, hoping he would do it for her. Del Portillo read Jade's text messages. It's going to be weekend at Bernie's. For jurors unfamiliar with 1980s movies, he explained the reference. For those of you that don't know, that's a reference to a movie where the plot is that Bernie is murdered and it's staged to look like an overdose, he said, and that the main characters parade him around as if he's alive, walking him around. He's a limp body. The evidence is going to show that is what that reference is, weekend at Bernie's. A plot to kill someone requires discretion in order to avoid getting caught. The fewer people who know, the fewer leaks there will be. Jade, according to the prosecution, was involving a bigger and bigger circle of people in her scheme. Prosecutor Del Portillo said that when Alan didn't come over to help, he sent his partner, Brian Solomon, over instead. Like Alan, Brian worked in private security. According to her text, Jade was upset that Alan had bailed on her and sent Brian over in his place. Feel 100% let down by you right now. Really? I asked for help. I couldn't have made things easier. I tried to do it on my own and can't. He's waking up and I'm waiting on a stranger, she wrote. At 3:51 p.m. on New Year's Eve, Brian arrived at Jade's. According to Prosecutor Del Portillo, he was immediately uncomfortable by the situation with Tom in the car, with a rope around him and a pillowcase over his head. Brian just keeps asking the similar question. So what do you want me to do? You want me to bring him in? Do you want me to, fireman carry him in from the car? Or Del Portillo said Jade responded, I want you to strangle him and then bring him into the house and I'll take care of the rest. He said this absolutely stunned Brian. He tried to play it cool, said, okay, let me just give my boy a call. I'll be right back. Del Portillo said, what he's going to tell you is he leaves and bolts out. Jade then texted Alan again. Tom was waking up. Brian was nowhere to be found, and Jade was alone with her stepfather. I'm not strong enough. I'm not sure how to proceed. I'm about to club him on the head as he's waking up, Jade texted. Another message to Alan read, I asked you for help and I get it's happened quick, but what am I supposed to do? He's in pain. I'm not strong enough. He is very aware now, and I'm on my own. Why are you not responding? I'm not okay. Please get back to me. Alan and Brian weren't the only people Jade confided in about her plot, according to the prosecution. There was somebody else she told, somebody else she asked to help her on that New Year's Eve. Adam Sipliak, a heavy equipment operator, testified for the state at Jade's trial. He told the jury he had been friends with Jade for 20 years. Their relationship sounded complicated. Adam wouldn't exactly say they had dated, but they had slept together. Adam was married at the time back then, but his marriage didn't last, nor did Adam's and Jade's friendship. They went through a 15-year gap where they weren't close, but eventually they reconnected around 2019. Adam had reached out on Facebook because he was newly single and was hoping to strike up a romance with Jade again. This time, though, they stayed just platonic friends. They went on hikes or out to lunch and even traveled to Mexico together, but Adam admitted nothing romantic happened. In court, Adam acknowledged that he had a criminal past. He had used drugs, although he was clean now, he testified. His ex-girlfriend, Christy, had been in prison. He also admitted to stalking Christy and sending her threatening messages. He was sentenced to 3 years probation. As part of his probation to avoid 3 years of prison time, he couldn't make any more mistakes. So with that 3 years hanging over your head, no new crimes? Asked Prosecutor Teresa Pham. No, Adam said. He couldn't stalk or threaten his ex-girlfriend again, he said. Or commit perjury. Is that correct? Pham asked. Correct, Adam said. And you just took that witness stand and took an oath to tell the truth? Pham asked. Correct, Adam replied. Adam had testified about what happened on December 31st, 2020. He said it was lunchtime, midday, and he was out getting tacos with plans on getting a tattoo on his stomach afterwards when Jade texted him, sounding urgent. As the rest of the world was preparing to celebrate the end of 2020, Jade had other things on her mind other than New Year's Eve. 911, call me, her message said. He called her. On the phone, Jade asked where he was and what he was doing because she needed his help. Adam testified, she said her stepdad was in the driveway, passed out drunk, and she needed help putting him in the wheelbarrow to get him home. Adam said he didn't know Jade's stepfather, Tom, well. They had met 2 or 3 times years ago. He didn't even know Tom's last name. The two men had never really had a conversation before. Adam said he couldn't help Jade right then. He was in line for his tattoo and didn't want to break his appointment. They texted back and forth. You're my friend. I can trust you? Jade asked. By this time, Adam was getting inked. He assured her she could. He promised to come over when he was done. He said Jade responded by saying, I just got some weird news. Need to unravel my brain, but I'll be okay. Call me when done. Adam, his skin blistered from his tattoo, then headed over to her place. He had gone through a recent heartbreak and was single. He said he was hopeful that he and Jade would get physical. Are you alone? She texted him. It was 7:30 p.m. when Adam arrived, very much alone at Jade's apartment. He said he noticed it was messier than usual. A box of webcams and a green screen stood out, which made Adam curious about what Jade's secret was. I figured that's what she was going to tell me when I got there. When I saw the green screen, I said, I get it. I go, you're doing webcam stuff to pay the bills. Not a big deal, Adam testified. She goes, it's way gnarlier than that. He said, Tom had a bunch of pictures of her that she had found in his computer or something, that he had been watching her. He had disgusting files on her. She was just telling the story and she seemed upset about it, and rightly so. He said Jade held up her phone and Adam got a passing glance at a screenshot photo she was angry about. He said he walked around the kitchen bar and comforted her. He hugged her and kissed her head and said, I'm sorry you're dealing with this. It's disgusting. He testified that she said, it's even gnarlier than that. She goes, I killed him and he's in the back of my 4Runner. According to Adam's testimony, he remained surprisingly calm. All right, he said, so what happened? What's up? Were you shocked by it? Prosecutor Del Portillo asked him. I mean, I wasn't expecting to hear that, but it was a calm situation, he testified. He said Jade freely admitted how she had killed Tom when Adam pressed her for more details. She said that she drugged him and that's why he was out in the driveway. She couldn't get him back in the house. And that at some point, she had gotten him in the car, wrestled him in the car and put a bag on his head and strangled him, he testified. He said Jade strangled him because he wasn't dying fast enough from being suffocated. He told the jury that Jade then drove around for 2 hours with Tom's dead body in her car. She wasn't sure what to do. Dump him somewhere? Put him back at his home, even though Jade surely couldn't lift him or drag him herself. When you heard that, what was going through your mind? The prosecutor asked. Fuck, I'm sitting here in a murder scene, Adam testified. Did you believe her? Yeah, Adam said. But again, no panic as Adam listened to Jade admitting she killed Tom while they stood in the kitchen of her apartment. We were both very calm, you know. It wasn't elevated at all. It was just she was explaining what happened, Adam testified. He said straight out, Jade then asked Adam to help her move Tom's body back to his apartment and into his bed, which was only 50 yards away from where Jade lived. He said she wanted to make it look like Tom had died from an overdose. Right away, Adam said he was hesitant. He watched true crime shows. He knew evidence usually existed from violent crimes. If you strangled him, you're screwed. He's going to have bruises in a minute on his neck, Adam said he told her. Jade insisted she strangled him lightly, so she didn't leave behind marks or bruises. Adam testified that he was a parent. He had a lot to lose if he was caught getting involved covering up a murder. He was having second thoughts of being at Jade's, of being so close to someone confessing to committing a crime. I'm out of here. I said, I have a kid to raise, Adam testified. Were you nervous at that time? The prosecutor asked him. I feel a little more nervous up here on the stand, he said. But I was really calm then. I just knew I'm standing somewhere I don't want to be standing. Did you tell her that? The prosecutor asked. Yeah, said, I gotta go, Adam testified. She said, I can tell you're scared. I said, I'm not scared. I'm out of here. He said Jade convinced him to smoke a cigarette with her. Even though Adam claimed he was calm, he said his brain was churning. He took 3 drags and then flicked off the burning end of the cigarette and put it in his pocket. He was thinking about fingerprints and DNA and anything that was proof that he was physically at Jade's in that moment. When he had first arrived there, he had put lotion on his stomach to help his skin heal from the tattoo. He said he went back inside and wiped down the lotion bottle. He didn't want his fingerprints left behind. He then sent Jade a text before he even left there, telling her he was going to go home and clean his tattoos. The text would maybe vindicate him and prove he hadn't been at Jade's at all, he thought. He said they kissed goodbye, and as Adam walked out, he saw her light brown 4Runner parked outside. He avoided the car. He didn't want to look inside to see if Tom was there. He said he was returning home to an empty house, but there was no alibi there, so he called a friend to make last-minute plans. Without going into details about the who and the how and the why, he said he confided in his friend about what he had just experienced. His friend, Adam testified, doesn't know Jade. He knows her name, but he doesn't know her, and I didn't want to say too much to him because I didn't want him to be dragged into anything. And I just said, look, I was just at a girl's house. She had a dead body, wanted me to move it. I said no. After midnight, it was now officially January 1st, 2021, Adam testified he went home. Laid in bed all night, tripping out on this whole situation. I didn't sleep a wink. I went to bed like at 4 a.m. or something like that. I was pretty stressed about it. And by the morning, I decided that I was going to call the police. Why did you not call the police right away when you were leaving Ms. Janks' apartment? The prosecutor asked. Because street code or whatever. I've been a convict my whole life, and I've never called the cops. I called the cops one time in my life was because I saw the side of the freeway was on fire and nobody was there, I didn't want to be a rat, Adam testified. The prosecutor asked, and at some point you changed your mind? I decided that I don't give a shit what anybody thinks, he said. I just want to be home with me and my son, And so that's what Adam did. He called 911. That sounded the alarm for investigators, who began looking for Tom, calling his relatives, and trying to find Jade, too. On cross-examination, Jade's attorney read some of the text messages Adam had sent to his ex-girlfriend, the one he had stalked. Adam's words were racist and misogynistic. Jurors already knew he was a felon, had a history of substance abuse, and sometimes he testified in direct, crass language on the stand. For example, what was one of the first things he did at Jade's? He took a piss, he had said. Would all of this dig away at his credibility as a witness? If the jury didn't like him, would they trust him as a credible witness? Jade Janks was persistent, Prosecutor Del Portillo said in court. She would do anything to kill Tom.
She made the personal choice of murdering Tom, and it was captured on December 30th, 2020 at 12:04 p.m. I struggle with moral issues, yet I will not be looking over my shoulder, so I made the call. What does that mean? Quote, it means everything you think it does. It means that she was going to lull Tom into a false sense of security before she sprung her trap. It meant that when she picked up Tom, she was going to make sure to appear loving to the nurse, Devin Ward. It meant that to secure his trust, she was going to buy him alcohol and chocolates before she drugged him with painkillers and sleeping pills. It meant that she was going to care for him so that she could kill him. Once he was knocked out, sleeping, and helpless, she still could have pulled back. When Alan Roach was telling her that he wasn't coming, she could have abandoned her murder plot, yet she continued. When Brian Solomon showed up and ran away after she asked him to strangle Tom, she could have abandoned it then, but yet she continued. She was implacable. Nothing could stop her. Especially not after Tom opened his eyes, only to see the world out through the inside of a grocery bag or a pillowcase or both. And we know Tom was waking up because she said so in her own words. He's very aware right now. I'm on my own. And when the drugs were wearing off and the bag wasn't killing Tom fast enough, that's when she got close and personal and strangled Tom to death. After trying to get her friend Adam to move the body and stage it to look like an overdose, she buried Tom in the driveway like a piece of trash.
At 5:33 p.m. on January 1st, 2021, New Year's Day, Jade was driving when she saw something in her rearview mirror. Police lights behind her. She was being pulled over. She has one last chance before she's ordered out of the car to do anything, Prosecutor Del Portillo said. She texted Alan Roach. Lose my number. I'm getting pulled over, she wrote. In his opening statements, Prosecutor Del Portillo summarized their theory for the jury. The motive for Tom's murder was the nude photographs that she found of herself, where she had a visceral reaction. She couldn't even shower alone, he said. The means? All the items found in her car, the rope, the towel, the bag, the pillowcase, and the medications found in Tom's apartment, and the gloves she used to hide the prints and DNA, he said. Jade's opportunity to kill Tom? He reminded the jury that she was the one who picked him up from the nursing care facility. And the confessions to Alan Roach, Brian Solomon, Adam Sipliak, and all of the corroborating text messages of, I just dosed the hell out of him. I really didn't want to involve that many people. He's waking up. I really didn't want to be the one to do this. Lose my number. I'm getting pulled over, he said, reading those text messages out loud again. He asked the jury to return the only verdict in this case that is based on the evidence, that Jade is guilty of first-degree murder. In his opening statements, Jade Janks' attorney, Mark Carlos, said there was no physical evidence that backed up any of the prosecution's claims, that Jade had meticulously planned a murder or had used a rope and a pillowcase to strangle Tom. And he said no medical testimony supported the prosecution's theory either. The medical testimony presented by the prosecution does not support strangulation, he said. And that's important when you start to look at the evidence that's presented in court to support that theory. And the reason is the medical testimony has the cause of death as acute intoxication by the zolpidem. And it's a small amount. The bottom line is Mr. Merriman had a depleted system, and it was the small amount of pills that actually killed him. He said the problem for the prosecution is that the medical examiner will not say strangulation or asphyxia was a cause of death in this case. They will not. The medicine, the science, does not support any asphyxia, he said. The science does not support any strangulation, except for the fact that, hey, sometimes you can get strangled and leave no marks. That's their support. Or, hey, sometimes you put a bag over somebody's head and it leaves no marks. He went on. So 18 months later, as we are on the eve of trial, we got the district attorney investigator and district attorneys walking up to the medical examiner with a blow-up photo, a photo that the medical examiner took, and they say, hey, what about this thing here? Does that look like petechiae? Well, I guess it could be. He referenced petechiae, which are burst blood vessels around the eyes, and often a sign that someone has been choked. He then went after other parts of the prosecution's case. Those pillows inside the Forerunner? Jade got those to make Tom more comfortable, he said. And Adam is a key witness for the prosecution? Adam Sipliak is the type of guy who will say anything he needs to say to get out of things, he argued. In reality, he is a criminal. He disputed that Jade was motivated to kill her stepfather. Instead, he showed the jury a family photo of Jade with Tom and Cash, who is Tom's son and Jade's half-brother. Now, as you can see in the photo, this is a happy group. This is a happy sort of family. They know each other. They see each other. They go to lunch. They go to dinner. They're normal relationships, he said. These are normal people. He said the truth of the matter is that Tom and Jade were close and loved each other. Unfortunately, Tom Merriman was a troubled individual, and he loved her in different ways, but he still loved her. They still had a relationship, he said. He described Jade as someone with a big heart who was a caregiver to her troubled family member. She was the one who looked in on him, he said. The only thing Jade Janks has done her entire life with Tom Merriman is help him. Nobody else did. He asked the jury to imagine for a second how they would feel if they were to bump into their loved one's computer and find what she found, then to keep looking and see hundreds of photos. They were actually in folders, he said. Jade's shower, Jade, and then a very derogatory term for her private parts. There's a video that Mr. Merriman then broke down into stills so he could have multiple pictures. Multiple photos of Jade engaged in a sex act with her boyfriend. This is what she witnessed. This is what she saw. He said it put her in a really hard place. The photos were out of the ordinary, and it was clearly an obsession. I mean, this is her stepfather. As a teenager, grew up with him as basically a father figure. She referred to him as her father. Mr. Merriman, in his medical records, calls her Jade Janks, his daughter. He tells nurses that, my daughter is coming to pick me up. I'm going to be home soon, and my daughter is the one who's coming to get me. He said Tom died from an overdose at his own hands. He made himself a drug cocktail while he sat in Jade's car. He told the jury that Jade was scared to call 911 because she was worried she would be blamed for his death. She feared investigators would believe the naked photos she found on his computer would be seen as a motive to kill him. Her worst fears actually came true, he said. Her worst fears about being blamed for the death of her stepfather led to her arrest in this case, and now she stands before you on trial for murder. He then made one last point before concluding his opening statements. Jade Janks should have called the police. She didn't, he said. Jade Janks should have called 911. She didn't. But what Jade Janks didn't do was murder her stepfather. What Jade Janks did not do was strangle him. And what Jade Janks did not do is put a bag over his head. What Jade Janks didn't do is put a rope around his neck. And what Jade Janks didn't do is put her hands around his neck and try to choke the life out of him. He again reiterated that there was no evidence of it and that it didn't happen. She's not guilty of anything except being afraid, except not acting the way that maybe we would have acted under the circumstances. Deputy Medical Examiner Greg Pizarro ruled the manner of Tom Merriman's death as homicide. But there were no obvious physical signs that Tom had been strangled or suffocated. No glaring indications of a violent, traumatic death. Instead, Tom had high toxic levels of a drug most commonly known as Ambien, that's known as a sleep aid. Tom had an excess amount of Ambien, an amount far beyond what a normal person would use for sleep relief, Dr. Pizarro testified. He told the jury that such a toxic level does not necessarily mean it will kill you, but it's like toxic that it could affect your system. In many cases, it can be fatal. Therefore, Dr. Pizarro ruled the cause of Tom's death as acute zolpidem intoxication. The prosecutor asked, "So it's impossible to say for a given person what level becomes lethal for them. There's a lot of factors. Is that fair to say?" "Yes," Dr. Pizarro said. The prosecutor had told the jury in his opening statements that Tom showed, quote, minimal signs of strangulation. Dr. Pizarro had noticed petechiae in Tom's eyes during the autopsy. Remember, petechiae are burst blood vessels around the eyes. Tom had a little bit of petechiae, the prosecutor said, although he also pointed out that authorities sometimes see it in strangulation cases, but there can be other causes for it too. If jurors wanted definitive smoking gun medical testimony that Tom, who was full of drugs, had also been strangled to death, they would not get it. Dr. Pizarro testified that he did not see any bleeding or fractures in the hyoid bone, which is another typical sign of strangulation. It's a good chance the absence of hemorrhage of the hyoid bone is very unlikely that the person is strangled, he said. The prosecutor's line of questioning pushed Dr. Pizarro to acknowledge that perhaps Tom's body showed no signs of violent injury because he was semi-conscious and incapacitated. Is it fair to say that when someone's been intoxicated to the point where they're no longer conscious, they're not putting up a resistance to the assailant who's strangling them? The prosecutor asked. The defense objected, but the judge overruled. Dr. Pizarro agreed. The prosecutor then asked if, in a case where someone was obtunded or intoxicated, was being lightly strangled to the point where the jugular and carotid were compressed, that could not leave any injuries. Dr. Pizarro said that's possible. But under cross, the defense attorney argued, "You're going to tell this jury right now that you can say beyond any medical certainty that there was smothering in this case?" Dr. Pizarro responded by saying, "Nothing can be ruled out until you have the completed investigative report. In this case, the absence for strangulation of superficial deep muscle hemorrhage and fracture with hemorrhage of the hyoid bone makes strangulation, it's possible, but it's very less likely." Dr. Pizarro also testified that he couldn't give a time of death. It's not an exact science, he said. But by his best estimates, Tom had been dead for 12 to 18 hours when he was found on the driveway, because the body was in the early stages of decomposition. Blood was pooling on Tom's face. Because of gravity, that blood pooling can start happening anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours after a person's death. It fully develops within 8 to 12 hours after death. Although, again, there is no fast rule on the timing, Dr. Pizarro testified. He pointed to autopsy photos and identified blanching, which is when the skin turns white and looks discolored. Blanching can happen after someone has been dead for hours and pressure is applied somewhere on their skin. According to Dr. Pizarro, Tom wasn't in good health. He was an alcoholic. He had a bad liver. He wasn't a healthy weight. Those weren't what killed him, although they were factors contributing to or accelerating his death. At the start of the trial, the prosecutor had told the jury, "One of the misconceptions is that when you commit a murder, you always leave a trace, that it's impossible to get away with murder, that forensic science is so advanced that you always leave a trace. In this case, members of the jury, we're going to present to you not just circumstantial evidence of the petechiae, the drugs in his system, but the direct evidence, something stronger than the circumstantial evidence." But was this evidence enough to convict? Jade Janks insisted she was innocent, and she was going to take the stand in her own defense to try and convince jurors she wasn't responsible for Tom's death. You'll hear her story firsthand next week in part 2. And that's all for this episode. As always, I'd love to know what you think about this case. You can let me know by finding me on Twitter at CourtJunkiePod, on Instagram at CourtJunkie, or you can email me at podcast@CourtJunkie.com. This episode was researched and written by Gabrielle Russon. If you'd like to hear these episodes without the ads, hear additional Court Junkie bonus episodes, or get access to our weekly court case newsletter, check out our Patreon options by going to CourtJunkie.com/support. And don't forget to check out our sister podcast, Sybil. The latest episode was released last week, and it covers the downfall of Bill Cosby, which may have been solidified by a civil lawsuit. And lastly, I touched on this in my last episode, but I will be going on a maternity leave shortly. I'm still finalizing all the details, but the plan is to release new episodes throughout April that are recorded by me. And then in May, my colleague Matt Stroud will be taking over. And you can expect new episodes with him as the narrator every other week in May. Then in June, new episodes will go back to a weekly schedule. And depending on how my maternity leave is going, either Matt or myself will be narrating. I'm hoping to be back to recording in mid-June. Thanks for your patience in the meantime. I will keep all of you updated. Thanks again for listening and for all of your support. Until next time.